All right, let's take a little look at slope. So remember the slope. What slope is, it is the change in y over the change in x. All right, what does that mean? Well, slope tells us how fast a line is rising up or down. So here's a line, and it's rising, right? If I start here and I go here, how fast did I get there, basically, is what it's saying. It's a rate of change, right? So this line could represent how fast I run, and this line could represent how fast my husband runs, and this is actually true. Which one of us changed faster? Well, I kind of like gradually, but he went really fast, right? So his slope is steeper, which means his rate of change is bigger, right? So he actually runs faster than me, and we can see that. So slope basically is just how fast a line goes up or down, okay? So we find that by doing change in y over change in x, or we could write it like this, delta y over delta x. That's a way to write that. And really, the way we find the slope is, we've said this before, if you're graphing, you can do rise over run. If you have a graph, you can just count, you know, pick any point, just count how far it goes up and how far it goes over. So say we have this line right here. And this point is is 0, -1, and this point is 3, 3. So what we're going to do is we count up, how far it went up, and how far it went over. So we count from this point, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it went 4 in the positive direction, and then we count over 1, 2, 3, and it went 3 in the positive x direction. So rise, it changed 4, and run, it changed 3, and both of those were positive directions, right? So I changed the y, I changed going up, that's positive, and going right is positive in the x direction. So my slope of this line would be 4/3. Now, what if I'm just given 2 points? How do I find the slope if I'm just given the 2 points? Well, that's where we use that formula. Remember, we're trying to find the difference. I'm trying to find the difference between this point and this point. Well, difference, if you remember your keywords in math, means subtraction. So we just go y2 minus y1. So that's this, the y value of this point minus the y value of this point. That's our rise, that's how far our y changed. And then we go x2 minus x1. And that's how far our x has changed. How far did it go from here to here on the x value? So for this one, we would have our 2 points are 0, -1, and 3, 3. Well, we could take, this is, let's see, x1, y1, that's a y, x2, y2. So we're going to take y2, which is 3, minus y1, which is -1, x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 0. Well, remember, a minus a negative actually makes this plus a positive, so that's actually 4 over 3 minus 0, which is 3. So we get the same slope if we counted it or if we use the formula, which is good. It means I did it right. But that's how we find the slope given 2 points. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now when we're comparing two lines, how do we know if they're parallel or perpendicular? Well, parallel lines, they are going to look like this, right? So here's a line, and then here's another line that's parallel to it. If you look at those two lines, you can see they're rising at the same speed. So these are going to have the same slope. Now perpendicular lines, let's take a look at some perpendicular lines. Well, one thing we can tell for sure just from the line or from the picture is that this has a positive slope and this has a negative slope. So we know that perpendicular lines are definitely going to have opposite signs. If one is positive, the other one's going to be negative. And what we also know from math is that if this one, say this one is 3/2, if the slope of that one is 3/2, well, this one right here we're going to flip it. We're going to get the reciprocal of it. So we're going to flip it so that the whatever was on bottom is now on top, and whatever was on top is now on bottom. So the slopes of perpendicular lines have opposite signs, and they're also reciprocals. So the slope of perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay, so if this one is positive 3/2, to find the slope of the line that's perpendicular to it, you would flip it and change the sign. So we would put 2 on top, 3 on bottom, and we would change the sign, and that would give us negative 2/3.